Well, on Panthers TV, I am delighted to be joined by our latest signing, Reid Stefanson. Reid, welcome to the Panthers. Great to have you with us. Great to be talking to you. Tell me why you chose for the Panthers to be your new club for the next season.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much for the intro there. I mean, just heard a lot of really good things about the organization and a lot of good things about the league too. So it was became sort of a no-brainer for me.
Obviously, it's quite late in the summer. Obviously, you're a type of player. Do you like to kind of look around to commit, do a bit of research, find out where you're going, so you can really know that the club is the one for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why maybe the process took a little bit longer for this to be finalized. I just wanted to make sure that it was, a good fit in terms of the city and the fan base and everything that goes along with playing professional hockey and the league, everything like that. It all played a factor, and super excited to be a Panther now.
I'm sure you've looked up and down the roster. How excited are you to be joining a very exciting looking roster? We'll talk about one player in particular who you've been a line mate and a teammate of, but how excited are you to be joining this really good looking roster?
Super excited. Yeah, from talking with the staff and obviously Tim Doherty, who I knew I played with. It seems like there's a lot of really good signings, and we're hoping to be a team that can be in contention for championships. And it seems like from everything that I've heard, everything that I've seen, we have a really good roster to move forward with.
Well, you mentioned Tim, and obviously you played together that year in Maine. I think it was your first full year as a pro. He had a tremendous season with 73 points. You didn't have a bad season either 47 points. I think you led the forwards in plus minus with plus 22. Just tell us a bit about Tim, what it was like playing with him.
Yeah, tons of fun. I mean, great guy off the ice, but on the ice, he's super fun to play with. He's one of those guys that he just makes it really easy on you when you're playing with him. He's got a really high hockey IQ and can really move well and plays with pace too. So no surprise that he put up the numbers that he did there, and super excited to sort of reconnect here and hopefully have the opportunity to play on a line together.
Does that help as well that you know someone in a new club? I mean, I guess you're used to it now. You're in the early stages of your career, but you have traveled a bit. We'll touch on your time in Vienna shortly. But does it help you to know that you're going to see a familiar face straight away?
Absolutely. I think it's just sort of a comfortability thing going into a locker room with everyone as a new face. It's not the easiest thing in the world to necessarily get comfortable with, but when you have someone that you've already played with and you have that familiarity, it definitely makes the transition a little bit easier.
I guess on top of that, and just before we started recording, we were talking about the fact you'll walk in the dressing room and you'll end up knowing that someone probably knows your best pal and someone knows someone that you played with a couple of years ago. That is a great thing, isn't it, about hockey? Because you may be new, it may be almost 20 strangers, but quite quickly you will realize there's so many connections.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not surprising anymore, but you always go into a locker room and you always realize that you've crossed paths with, so and so who's played with someone who you're now playing with, your teammates with, who they know from their junior team or another professional team. It's just everyone always says the hockey world's such a small world, and it really is true.
Absolutely is. Just talk us through your time in the NCAA. Obviously, a really big university league. You get the chance to study and play hockey. How did you find those 3 and a bit years there?
I loved it. Yeah, I mean, I think from the time I was really little, my parents had always instilled in me to prioritize the education, that you have that to fall back on at the end of the day. And so I always had a dream of playing college hockey, and to be able to live that out was pretty incredible. And the organization there was very new to me. I hadn't been really out on the East Coast all that much, but fell in love with the area of New England. And I guess actually played against Tim there too when he was in Maine. I think for a year or two, probably overlapped, but better to be teammates.
Now, just talk us through because at the end of that fourth or midway through, it seems that fourth year in the NCAA, you got the call up to go to turn pro in Maine. Are you aware that Maine are watching you? Does it come out of the blue, or do you have feelers that they are looking at you and this is a possibility?
I guess depends on the circumstance of the player, but for me, I just wanted to focus on my college career and finishing the best that we could. We ended up falling short in that tournament, but I guess it does happen quickly after that. You have teams calling you and interested in you to finish the season and try to help them out in potentially a playoff run, which I was lucky enough to experience in my first couple years pro was, or sorry, couple games pro was playing in Maine and going on a little bit of a playoff run where it was a really cool experience. So it worked out well.
It's a really interesting point you make there. It you really went quickly, didn't you? You finished college, you get that call up and that first pro deal with Maine. Not only that, you go to the playoffs as well, which is obviously any North American's dream to play playoffs. So it's kind of a case of keeping grounded and everything happening so quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's one day I was in my dorm doing school, and then the next day it felt like I was in a little playoff run, and it was a lot of fun.
And how much fun was that first year of pro? As I said, you put up a really healthy points return. How much did you enjoy that first year of being a professional hockey player?
I loved it. Yeah, it was. I mean, nothing but good things to say about Maine. It was a great city, great organization. It was really fun to play in that organization. And I think personally, I got off to a little bit of a slow start, and it took a little time to, I guess, transition and learn the pro game. And it's a little bit different from college hockey, so just took a little bit of time for transition. But the second half, I felt like I had my legs under me and performed a little bit better. So it was great.
And then partway through last season in Maine, you decided to make the move to Vienna to go into Europe. What was your thinking behind that? It seems a very intriguing move, and obviously going to the continent, going to Europe is something very different when you've been in North America. What was your thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I guess it sort of felt like I had hit my ceiling in North America, where I was hoping for that American League call up, which didn't come. It doesn't for a lot of people, which is totally fine. But then I also had aspirations to be able to play in Europe and to experience the game over here, but also the lifestyle and the traveling, everything that comes with being over in Europe. And um, I think it was the right time for me, and it was an enjoyable experience in itself.
And how interesting was it to adapt to a very different league to the one in the East Coast?
From East Coast to Vienna,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, obviously the ice surface being bigger was the biggest challenge. It was a little hard on the lungs for the first couple games, but again, another transition that you just have to get used to. And being there so late, I was hoping to make a little bit of a push to get us into the playoffs there, which we just fell short. But it was yeah, just another transition that was enjoyable.
They talk about the crowds in Europe being passionate, and I'm sure you've done. Every player I speak to says they've done their research. They've seen about the Elite League and the Nottingham Panthers fans. It's a big, noisy arena. Are you the sort of player that thrives in these big atmospheres that you're going to encounter in Nottingham and across the Elite League?
Yeah, I love it. I think most players would say that, but it's fun when obviously they're on your side. But I also have no problem if we go into a noisy building on the road either. It's just something that you gotta cherish and utilize that energy and enjoy the whole thing.
Brilliant. Well, listen, it's been great talking to you. I'm sure we'll speak to you again soon, probably in just a few days. But for now, thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.